that Tennessee feeling. It's finally fall. Don't feel like fall yet, but I guess we're getting there. It's kind of cooler at night and in the mornings. But you know what that means? We're almost to spooky. Well, we're actually in spooky season. Technically, we're in October, but y'all know what I mean. I hope you guys liked last month's episode. And this month, we're going to talk about something spooky, right? Because it's spooky month. And we're going to talk about something that's actually really close to where I live. And I've heard about this all my life. And if you're into the paranormal, you've probably heard of it too. We're going to talk about Wheatlands, or the Wheatland Plantation in Sevier County. And it's an old antebellum plantation, which is to include the plantation house, storage shed, smokehouse. And they're all on the National Register of Historic Places. And this has actually been called the best example of federal style building that still remains in Sevier County. Now, Wheatlands was actually named after what it grew, wheat. And it was established as a family farm by Revolutionary War veteran Timothy Chandler in 1791. So it's old. And old places usually have a lot of history. And this one does. Chandler's son, John Chandler, inherited Wheatlands in 1819. Under his direction, the plantation actually grew. So John is the one that really made it into a huge plantation. He made it into kind of what it was when it was, successful. And it grew to become one of Sevier County's largest farms. It covered 3,700 acres, and that was through 1850. Now, Chandler's freed slaves actually inherited part of Wheatlands in 1875, and formed the Chandler Gap community in the hills just south of the plantation. So where is exactly Wheatlands Plantation? Well, it's actually at the corner of State Highway 338 and Cedar Springs Valley Road in the Boyd Creek community. It's about halfway between Sevierville and Seymour. Really pretty area. And the plantation was actually situated along the banks of Boyd Creek, and it empties into the French Broad River near the Robson Ferry Plantation, which is about a mile east. And really, this gave Wheatlands access to one of the interior waterways, and it allowed shipment of wheat whiskey to New Orleans. So it was very successful. Now, it might be successful and it might be old, but it is also very haunted. But I got to tell you why it's haunted first before we talk about the haunts, or haints. Now, the state highway that sits on 338 roughly follows what used to be a section of the 18th century Native American trail known as the Great Indian Warpath. So, what does that have anything to do with it? Well, in 1780, John Sevier followed the path across French Broad River to engage and defeat Cherokee forces at the Battle of Boyd's Creek, which took place on the site of Wheatlands, or what would be Wheatlands. Early settlers also followed the trail into the Boyd's Creek area. That included Timothy Chandler, who founded it. He was a Revolutionary War veteran from Virginia who moved there in 1791. Now, after Timothy Chandler died in 1819, his son John inherited it and, grew it. But the original Chandler farmhouse actually burned in 1823. So John Chandler built what you see today, which is the house, the big farmhouse, federal style, beautiful. It really is beautiful. Plantation house you see now. And of course, by 1850, Wheatlands had become one of the largest farms in Sevier County, covered 4,600 acres, and it was worth $7,000 at that time, which would be about $270,000 come today. Still doesn't seem like a lot for all that, but it's what it was. Now, the farm included 15 horses, 10 mules, 40-something cattle, 50-something sheep, and 300 hogs. So you can tell what kind of farm it was. Now, Chandler did own slaves. He owned 14 slaves, and he produced 3,000 bushels of corn, about 400 bushels of oats, 200 bushels of sweet potatoes, 12 bushels of buckwheat, 10 tons of hay, 150 pounds of wool, 200 pounds of just butter, and 200 gallons of honey in a year. They also produced 6,000 gallons of whiskey. So, like I said, this is a very successful plantation. Wheatlands was also used as the winter quarters for the Union by the 10th Regiment Cavalry out of Michigan and the 8th Division of the Western Pennsylvania. They ran raids through Sevierville, Gatlinburg, Newport, and they also sent troops over to the Brabson Plantation, which I said about a mile east, and they took over the ferry. They also occupied Bartley Chandler's home in Sevierville and made it into a prison. What better way to say F you? Now, that means that the Civil War also took place around this plantation. Now, like I said, when the Southern slaves were emancipated during the Civil War, Chandler started paying his free slaves to remain at Wheatland. He knew it was successful and he knew he needed them. Upon his death in 1875, he actually left them part of the land, which is Chandler's Gap. Chandler's Gap was actually a predominant African-American community well into the 1900s. Now, in 2011, though, Pigeon Forge businessmen bought Wheatlands, announced plans to restore it, and possibly establish this distillery again. So, yes, you can still visit it today. On the historic structures at Wheatlands do include the mansion home, which is the one rebuilt in 1825, the smokehouse, summer kitchen with a dining hall, and a loom house. Now, you're asking what a loom house is. It's where they created tapestries. They have a second-story shed and barn, but that was added more recently. The distillery sat on the property till 1930s when it burned, which is sad. But the property itself is beautiful. Wheatlands is a 2-story, 5-bay brick house with a 1.5-story kitchen, dining room wing, and it forms about an L shape. It is designed in Federal style, although there is a Queen Anne style front porch that was added, as well as Queen Anne windows in the late 1800s. It's gorgeous. The interior of the house remains most of its original design elements, including hand-painted rails and windows. The mantle designs were based on an Adamesque model of pattern books, which that was a big thing in Scottish architecture. And since a lot of them were in that area, it's not surprising that's where they got it from. But it's beautiful with hand-carved details. And the house is based on a central floor plan as opposed to a parlor hall floor plan, which was really typical at that time. So it's kind of groundbreaking that they did something different. The farm storage shed is built around 1825. It still stands behind the house. The shed, which was beaded weatherboarding, which is an old style of like wood, and it's more horizontal and overlapping, and it allowed for better like insulation. They think that might have been the distillery, possibly part of an ice house, and possibly part of a loom house. The smokehouse at Wheatlands dates to be the first half of the 19th century, so 1800s, and it was constructed of hewn logs, and it kind of looks like a log cabin kind of thing. So, now that we know about Wheatlands, we want to know why it's so haunted. Well, let me tell you. This house had some tragedy and anger and regret. Hundreds of years of suffering and pain are in most plantations. But for some reason, Wheatland held on to its history a lot more than some other ones. Now, at one point in time, people in Tennessee could own up to 300 slaves. Not could, but they did. And so that kind of gives you an idea about this dark past. So, why is this one so haunted compared to others? Well, now you got to remember this place sits in a beautiful area in Wares Valley, just near Sevierville. And I'm sure if they saw Pigeon Forge today, they'd be outraged. But let's not go there. Let's continue on about Wheatlands. It was established by a Revolutionary War veteran, so it's very old, 1791. So you're talking well over 300 years old. And It sits in an area that saw a lot of conflict. And I mean a lot. Because we've already talked about the Great Indian Warpath, where there was a battle. And then you're talking about the Civil War and possibly parts of the Revolutionary War. So this is just really a tragic area. It is said that the plantation has witnessed 70 murders, y'all. 70 murders and deaths. 70, 70, y'all. 70. That's a lot for one area. And of course, most of the murders actually have reports where you can see that someone did die on this land. I mean, of course, the grounds were, of course, Revolutionary and Civil War battlegrounds, so that lends to it. They also think that an estimated 28 Cherokee people were massacred there and buried in a mass grave behind the home itself. That right there is bad energy. 50 slave grave sites have also been located on the property. So it's not surprising when you get on that property and it feels heavy. One of the most interesting parts about this is that when you walk into the parlor, there's a blood stain on the floorboard. That's right, blood stain. They've tried to get it up every way they can, and it just stays or comes back. And this was when a son killed his father. And this is also probably one of the most famous hauntings at Wheatlands, because people have heard yells of a man, thuds, gurgling noises like it's their last breath. And it's almost like you can just hear the murder being replayed over and over and over. If I'm thinking right, that's the stone tape theory, where it just keeps replaying. But that's not the only haunting. Members of the Chandler family are also said to linger here in the gorgeous home and the surrounding gardens. And it's been reported for hundreds of years that you could see these people still around. People see spirits of slave children running about, like they're almost playing hide and seek with the visitors to see who will actually see them. There's also the apparition of a young girl in a blue dress that has been seen running up and down the stairs. Shadows appear on the walls and move without explanation. Objects move without explanation. And the gravesite areas are active with disembodied voices. So you can ask a lot of people, and a lot of people will probably admit they've seen or heard something. And it's some bad energy, y'all. It's some dark energy. There's one story about a visitor who actually visited the haunted plantation, and they had 2 little children with them. And they actually took them there to show them that history is not always positive, which I commend them on that one. But they visited the plantation, they toured it, and on the way home, the son actually mentioned that he was scared the whole time. And she didn't really know the property's past, so she didn't know why he would be scared. Sorry, not on the way home, throughout the home. When they were visiting the home, he kept saying, I feel scared. So they got through the house. They didn't know the history. And once they exited, the fear in this kid got so bad, he fainted. Passed out. And it was not a hot day. The temperature in the area was like 70 degrees, but he had heat stroke symptoms. The EMS were called, and when he woke up, he told his mom he had seen the apparition of a young African-American boy dripping wet. That the ghost seemed angry, and when he ran towards the child, it caused him to faint. Now, this is a child telling his mom this. We all know children make up some fun stories, but this is just too much. But it tells you the fear and the physical feelings that slaves may have endured day in and day out at this plantation. And it's strange because when the mom told the story, she said that her son was too young to understand what happened. And so there's no way he could have just really made this up. And it seems like this is just like a very heavy place. Another thing that people think is that the Wheatlands property, whose original builder was a Freemason, might have built the home on top of a giant geode, which is kind of a conductor for electromagnetic things and spirits. So, is the property built on a big, opening, a doorway? Who knows? But with all the murders and stuff happening here, it kind of seems like it could have been. Like, you talk to anybody and they're going to tell you about this. They're going to tell you about how bad and how bloody this location just was. I mean, the mass grave of the Cherokees alone, plus the 50-something grave sites from slaves, are just the tip of that iceberg, not to mention that all the family members that were killed there. I think the most gruesome one is where you can hear the guy dying, to me. And it's such a beautiful property, but it is such a haunted property, y'all. Like, do I recommend going? Yes, absolutely. If you want to learn about the history, you should probably go see there. But it's just so haunted. And tons of paranormal teams have actually talked about this place. They've been visited, they've experienced it. And of course, you can tour the property and see what you feel for yourself. And sometimes they even do ghost hunts. I don't know that I'd want to do that one with them, but you know what? To each his own. It's just such a haunting place. And it's so sad, really, because this area is so full of history and of, Tennessee. But Lord, I wouldn't want to go there. Well, I mean, I've been there, but I wouldn't want to go there on a ghost hunt. It's so much. Like I said, people hear disembodied voices, footsteps, tons of apparitions, cold spots, unexplained noises, things moving. And of course, there are famous hauntings. One of the most famous is Granny Jane, who was a former slave who allegedly practiced voodoo. So now, not only do we have all the murders, all the anger, we now have voodoo. Her spirit is said to protect the house from intruders, often making her presence known to those who mean harm or have bad energy. I mean, if you're going to be there, I guess you might as well protect it. Another one is Lucy. She was a young girl who died tragically on the plantation grounds. They don't really say how, but she's seen playing near the house and you can hear her laughing. Other spirits include Civil War soldiers who roam the grounds like they're still doing their rounds. Kids who appear in old-fashioned clothing, and they attribute the kids to, like, when children didn't live very long due to illness or injury. But each of these spirits do kind of give a really, really, really interesting, that's my cat, y'all, he's saying hi, an interesting, like, note to this really, really beautiful but haunted, horrible plantation. I will say, if you're in the area, go visit it. It is gorgeous. It does have a ton of history. But don't be surprised if when you're there and you're taking a tour and you see somebody in old clothes, because it may not be, actual human being. Don't be surprised if you feel something walk past you and brush up against you, and that's probably not the air conditioning or a fan. Don't be surprised if you hear people right around the corner, but you can't find them. And it's okay to go here and to experience things and to feel like you need to leave. I know when I got there, y'all, it was heavy. Like, it was very heavy. I felt uncomfortable. But I wanted to learn about the history and I wanted to see what it was about. So we went. We did the tour. Roamed the grounds. But it always felt like something or some things were watching. So if you're looking for a good scare this month, maybe check out Wheatland's Plantation up in Sevierville. A lot of people go there, look at the fall leaves, or go to Gatlinburg, or go to Pigeon Forge, or Dollywood. Love Dollywood. But if you want to learn about the history of Tennessee, and like that woman said about taking her son there, history's not always pleasant, go check out Wheatland's Plantation. You're in for a really good fright. Hope you guys enjoyed this month's episode. If you've been to the Wheatland Plantation, let me know. You can email me at thattnfeeling@gmail.com. Hit me up on the social media, TikTok, X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it. Instagram, Facebook. I think I said Instagram twice. No, I did say TikTok already. Just let me know. Let me know if anybody else had those experiences, had that feeling, had that unease. And I mean, we know Tennessee's full of history, so, it's not surprising. But hope you guys enjoy Spooky Month. Hope you guys enjoy fall. It's turning cool. Tennessee's doing okay in football. Shock. And I say okay. They did have a dumb loss, but whatever. It's Tennessee. We know how that goes. Hope you guys enjoy fall. I'll be back next month with an episode about who knows what. If you have a suggestion, tell me. If you want to know something about Tennessee, tell me. I would love to tell you about it. All right, guys. Be nice. And don't forget to stay country, y'all.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.